So there's this new phrase, black fatigue, blowing up right now, slinging all around the interwebs. And me, being the perpetual hornet's nest kicker that I am, I felt the need to weigh in with a perspective that will hopefully piss everyone off simultaneously. But let's get into it. What is black fatigue and why are we hearing about it? Let's hear a definition.
Viral video of a white woman talking about black fatigue and how we don't need to give the black community reparations because we weren't around during slavery and neither were they. There were thousands of comments. This was going viral so quickly. Fully expecting to see people fighting her in the comment section. No, thousands of comments of white people, mostly. There was one Native American that was like, as a Native, thank you for saying this. I was like, what? There were so many white people in the comments saying, we're sick of this. Did they think that we were going to be silent for this long? You guys, those are war cries, if I've ever heard them. Thousands of white people in a comment section saying, did they really think we're going to be silent for this long?
Dude, race relations in America right now are at a point where a black youth who stabbed a white youth basically in cold blood can get $500,000 plus from the black community. This is a very cut and dry case. This was not self-defense. This was, you're not even supposed to have a knife at school. It doesn't even make any sense. But this is the context in which this is occurring. And just on that fact alone, you can say that American race relations are deeply, deeply, deeply unbalanced. If this lady paid any kind of attention to current events, this response would make more sense to her.
That's not good. And then I looked back. I saved the video. Literally, this was like 20 minutes ago. I saved the video and then I was going to reference it in this one, but it either has been taken down or she took it down herself. She deleted it. But I know that you guys have probably seen it because it had 500,000 views by the time that it was taken down. The problem is there were so many people in the comment section bold enough to say things like this. Let me say it to all the red hats out there and speak in your language. No one cares about your feelings. We need to talk about facts. And if you don't like the facts, you can go cry about it. Here are the facts. There's a thing called epigenetics. Whatever happens to your ancestors affects your mentality, your emotions, and your physical body for generations after generations after generations. It makes you ill. It makes you suffer emotional triggers that you wouldn't normally have if your ancestors did not go through those things. That is science.
Okay, if she is suggesting what I think she's suggesting here, this is perhaps like the most patronizing thing anyone could ever say. I don't know what, I'm not fully sure what kind of point she's trying to make here, but I don't know. Because it kind of sounds like she's saying, yeah, I know they behave that way, but it's because of racism. Like, what are you saying, bro? White liberals can really be some of the most racist people you ever meet. As edgy as some people are online, they can never hold a candle to something as backhanded as this.
Now let's talk about history. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Does that ring a bell? Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you don't know what happened there and you're a red hat, let me tell you a little history lesson. The black community was crawling out of the shithole that we left them in. And they created amazing communities where everybody was working together and they had fabulous education and people had money. The United States government bombed their communities, bombed, literal bombs dropped. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That wasn't even reparations. They were doing this themselves, cultivating this themselves, trying to bring themselves up. Any community that was systematically used and abused by the rest of society needs reparations. That includes Native, don't even get me started on Native Americans. I have a whole thing that I think they deserve.
White liberals who bring up stuff like this are really devils because you have all these Afro-Marxist intellectuals in academia who use the exact same incidences like that as excuses as to why uh, Black America needs the help of institutionalized white liberalism to be liberated. It's complete crap. And on the part of these black leftist so called intellectuals, it really belies their own disbelief in the black man's own ability to govern himself. They really do think that black people need to depend on white liberals at the end of the day. And this lady is just reinforcing this narrative for social points to seem more important, to virtue signal to her friends, and be perceived as a good person.
Some of y'all might even think I'm crazy, but this is about the black community right now. Yes, they deserve reparations. They get the short end of the stick almost every single time. This is not just a white, blue-haired woman talking about this. These are facts. And again, facts over feelings, right? Facts over feelings. Even though I don't think this way, nobody that I know thinks this way. You guys have made it very clear in the comment section that a lot of you do. Reparations isn't going to fix everything. What we need is a systematic approach to cultivating generations of people so that they can finally get a leg up in a world that has chopped them off at the kneecaps.
And here's where I get really controversial. The political and economic program of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is what black people need to get a leg up. It is both collectivist in the sense that it acknowledges the collective interests of the black community, but then also highly individual. It calls the individual black person to make improvements in their own life for their liberation. But white liberals do not preach genuine black empowerment. It's not in their nature to do so. They preach to other whites to say, you should feel more guilty. You should give more handouts. You should do X, Y, and Z. They're trying to convert other whites into their white liberalism, not actually empower black people. And another thing, too, is that a major defect of the liberal mind is that liberals, as a general rule, are more concerned with systems than they are with individual accountability. And truly successful, revolutionary, transformative movements require every individual comprising that movement, a large group of people, to actually feel that they have some sort of responsibility and act on it. And liberals cannot generate that, at least not in a positive way for the black community. It always ends as some sort of riot.
It continues to chop them off at the kneecaps. Right now, in low-income areas, the government is not giving these counties money for their education systems. Taxes that a certain area pays, I don't know if a lot of people know this, you should, but the taxes that certain areas pay directly affects the type of schools they have. The community is underprivileged, they're going to be underserved, and it's not going to get better. That is how our system in the United States is set up, period. That right there needs to change. I don't want to hear any other white people talking about black fatigue. You think you're fatigued? And I've seen the discourse on Black TikTok with them talking about black fatigue as well. They do make some points themselves. But again, white people, those are their points to make. You keep your mouth shut. I was blown away. I knew I had to make this video because those white people are scaring me.
Interesting how she reconciles her progressivism here. She says, those are their points to make. As though, you can't she doesn't really agree with them, but then also she can't invalidate a black opinion. So she just has to tell white people not to think the same thing.
It's not racist, and I know y'all have been told this is racist, but it's not. It's not racist to call black people out for their behavior and what they're doing to society at this moment. I'm glad people are noticing this because it's been so many years and it's finally catching up to y'all. I've been trying to tell y'all that white people are tired of y'all. I'm tired of y'all too, but everybody, the world is getting sick of y'all and y'all's bullshit. I'm so glad this day is here. I've been trying to get out there that you people need help. Not just me, but me and other black conservatives. We've been trying to warn society that this is what it's going to come to when y'all keep coddling black people. They're going to see themselves as higher ups. They're going to see themselves as untouchable because the world wants to not be racist towards them.
I completely agree with this sentiment. And then also something I feel like is missing from a lot of discourses on this issue is that proportionately white America is becoming more conservative. So eventually, white America will just kind of naturally stop caring as much about black interests or pretending to care as white liberals finally die out.
Fatigue is when I can hear you 10 miles away in Walmart with your 5 fucking kids. Black fatigue is when you have no home training and you have no idea how to act in public. And a lot of it is culture. I've been in the hood, I've been in the fucking schools and the projects where I was the only white girl there.
When the weakest group of females in existence proudly expose themselves but aren't smart enough to realize it. Because imagine ending up living in the projects next to the very people that you look down on, even though you benefit more than anyone else from DEI, food stamps, and affirmative action. You have an entire system designed and rigged specifically to support your severe mediocrity and admit that you still failed. That's embarrassing.
When majority of y'all know someone who has been unalived by another black person, way more than any instance of a black person being unjustifiably unalived by the police, that's black fatigue. As well as donating to Carmelo Anthony and Rodney Hinton Jr. When you aren't able to hold your own community accountable, that's a problem.
If we're being completely honest, the single solitary thing they spectacularly excel at is breeding the males who dominate every most wanted list in America. Rapists, mass shooters, PDF files, and being the very obedient doormats for these monsters they breed.
This has got to be one of the most disgusting and hateful things I have ever heard. My socks are officially blown off. You know, I shouldn't be surprised because you know how crazy the left is, but it's still very bracing to see where this lady stooped to make her point. Oh my gosh.
God bless America. Meanwhile, black women are outpacing the superior males academically and entrepreneurially and doing it with fewer resources and none of the privilege.
And I can 100% guarantee you that it's culture.
Can you define anything about your culture outside of the extensive history of violence, control, and theft? I'll wait. I'd like to give some honorable mention of your consistent achievements, which include weaponizing your tears to end people's lives and bullying 5-year-olds and calling it patriotism. So accomplished.
I mean, when you obviously have this level of contempt for white people, most of them are going to stop caring what your justifications are or what you think or what you have to say. Because no, they're not responsible for it. They're just living their lives like regular people. It's not their fault these other communities are struggling. And then to take such an adversarial position with them, you don't realize, she's doing this because she's used to talking with white liberals who will let her walk all over them. But now, again, fewer and fewer white people are actually white liberals. White liberals are kind of dying off at the moment. They've realized they don't actually have the sway, the cultural influence over the rest of America that they thought they did. But my message to Black America will be what it has always been: learn to do for self or suffer the consequences. This race stuff of trying to browbeat white people into sympathy of Black America is a grift. White people know it's a grift, and they will not be so kind towards Black America in the coming years. Um, I remember I was talking to a white liberal recently, and I asked him, how many institutions do Black people control? And he couldn't name any. He's like, oh, there are some important figures in the entertainment industry. So I was like, oh, yeah, you mean this sort of jester minstrel class that's here to entertain white people. They don't actually do anything. Oprah doesn't do anything important for Black America. And I told this guy, if Black life really is inherently at risk at all times because America is a white supremacist country, the solution to Black America's problems is not teaming up with some white liberal grandma wearing pride gear, but to prepare for armed revolutionary conflict in defense of the Black race. Any sort of progressive, MSM approved Black movement which appears to imitate this ethos, like BLM, is controlled opposition to the Black community, no matter how much of Black America actually ends up falling for it. BLM, Black Lives Matter, is a neoliberal puppet movement, and this is so incredibly obvious. As the most honorable Elijah Muhammad would say, quote, "It is a movement allowed by the enemy to control the restless masses, end quote. Genuine black racial consciousness does not look like BLM. Actually being aware as a black person of how you're still being played by white America and taking serious steps toward addressing that is genuine black racial consciousness. And this is not present in anything the left has to offer. As the most honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, white America has said to black America, I free you from my chains, but not from my control. Physical slavery, in other words, has ended, but mental slavery through puppet movements like BLM very much continues. And it makes no sense for Black America to donate all of this money to Carmelo Anthony's defense fund when they've already admitted they don't expect justice from the white man's courts anyways. This is how you know, at some level, a lot of Black Americans know they're being coddled and are willing to just go ahead and take advantage of white people and tell themselves a narrative about how they're being held back to justify it all. This is how you know that. Anyway, thank you, gang. I hope that commentary was thought-provoking for you. I hope it was challenging. I hope it made you see things in a different way, consider other perspectives, and Red Channels will catch you in the next one.